Let's bring in Sandi Adams here, because Sandi, you're really going to take the audience through what's happening on the ground in UK, and some of it is pretty astonishing. So welcome to UK Column News.
Thank you very much, Brian. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Okay, well, the first thing that you pointed us to was Department for Energy Security and Net Zero. And I've got to say that I hadn't actually picked up that we now had a Department for Net Zero, but we know where that's going to head. And what you're pointing people to here is how to see what is coming. So this graphic that we've got on screen is a map of UK, and the little dots indicate various things that are going on. So, for example, if they are a light-coloured purple, we've got everything from batteries to shoreline wave or small hydro schemes. And then we've got a lot of it, which is solar voltaics and landfill gas. Your point here, Sandi, was that when you look at these dots clustered all over UK, we should be asking ourselves, where is the farmland?
Exactly, and this is the big question. I mean, we've just celebrated our Harvest Festival in Somerset, well, all over the world. And where will the harvest be in the future? Because we have most of the farmland at the moment seems to be given over to renewable energy, either solar panels, big photovoltaic fields full of photovoltaic. We've got wind farms. We've got housing, these houses that no one will ever own. The banks will own them. And there's floodplain management. So I took that down really to Somerset and also looking at the mapping there, because it's quite frightening when you realise that I've spoken to local farmers as well. And what's happening is the land is all being given over to solar panels. There's no room for crops or dairy or meat production at all. And this is increasing as well.
Okay, Sandi, thank you very much for that. Now, we popped this one on screen a little bit early, but this is where people can actually go to see what's happening. So this is North Somerset Council. We've got preferred options for local plan policies, and it's an interactive map. Now, I hope this works. I'm just going to get it operating on screen, and I'll talk through it, and then we'll come back to yourself. Now, you were kind enough to point it at this, an interactive map where you can click on various topics to see what's going on. So at the moment, I'm hovering over green belts. So this is rewilding. This shows you the sheer scale of the plans where land is not going to be directly farmland. I've now clicked on, this is renewable energy areas. And going back up the list here, this is local plan minerals coming on screen. I've got local green spaces we're going to tick. We're going to go into retail. That's now popping up. And we've got local transport. Let's click on that one. That appears on the screen. Strategic gaps, it calls itself. I'm not sure what that one is. Community facilities. And then we're into the local plans, and each click shows us that there's more and more activity on the land. So on one hand, we're rewilding, but on the other hand, what you're demonstrating to us is that basically land is being taken away from farming. This is a really interesting animation, which I encourage people to go to see and play with themselves. But it's obvious, Sandi, isn't it, when you see this on a map?
It is. And if you were to click onto the energy part of that map, you'll see that most of it goes pink, which is again the photovoltaics and the wind farms. So literally the green disappears and it becomes completely energy based. So where is the food? Yeah.
Can I just come in there? Your point, one of the key points that you've made of all this is, of course, that if people go and look at these local plans, you can see for yourselves what is not coming in the future, what's already happening. And when I had the opportunity to sit down and talk to you in person a couple of weeks ago, you stressed this was so important because many people just sort of see the policy coming in through the BBC, for example. But if they go and check the local plans for their own county, they can actually see the detail of what's happening now and what is coming in the future. And most people never look at this information, and therefore they're not aware of what's in the pipeline.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, what about this categorization of natural asset corporations and classes? This has got a particularly unpleasant title, I think.
It does, unfortunately. It's really the way that land usage will change. And this is what this is all shored up by stakeholder capitalism, or I call it stakeholder communism, where everything is owned by big corporations. All our land is being bought up at the moment by corporate entities. And I don't know whether people are aware, but people like corporations like BA are buying up great swathes of our land to offset their carbon credits, of their carbon footprint. So what we're finding is that there is a plan to financialize the whole of nature and to make it into a big business, make it into a big sort of, all aspects of nature will be made into a business. And this is really, I've been talking to a lot of Somerset farmers this week because they've been had to be, sort of put forward to look at how they can actually diversify. Now, this diversification is not something they choose to do. It's something they're being forced to do. And instead of farming, they're being asked to look at other ways of making money out of their land. And they're calling it, basically, they had a 12-hour consultation, free consultation, with an NGO called FWAG, which is the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group, which is a registered charity, funny enough. It's come from DEFRA. It's a part of DEFRA. And they represent farmers and landowners in the delivery of wildlife conservation. And their idea is to promote and enhance the conservation of wildlife, the environment and the landscape in relation to modern agricultural needs. Now, this is all part of the government's Green Recovery Challenge Fund, which is highly, highly funded by Rishi Sunak's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution that was put forward in 2020, where the government pledged 40 million in its second round of funding to fund conservation NGOs like FWAG. And there's a number of other conservation NGOs that are receiving this money to push the conservation of farmland and not the growing of food. So this is what I gleaned from this particular farmer. At the moment, the farmers get something called the basic payment. It's a basic payment scheme, and that's their normal funding that they get from the government. But this is being replaced by something called the SFI, which is a Sustainable Farming Incentive Scheme. And what he told me was at the moment he gets 19,000 from the basic pension scheme, basic payment scheme, and this will halve next year. And then in the next 3 years, it will go down to 25% of that, and then nothing unless they sign up to the SFI, which is the Sustainable Farming Incentive Scheme. And this will impoverish farmers, because what the idea was when this man came from FWAG to give them this 12-hour seminar, basically, was all about how can you stop, your farming and do more that is actually a business. Things like you can have herbal leys, which are basically, it's rewilding. And also they came up with all sorts of ideas of how you could actually make money, because you're not going to make money out of farming. So that's it.
Wow. And of course, the basis of this, and I'm just going to emphasize for our audience today, these are policies which are coming in from global bases, from the UN Agenda 2030. These are not national policies that are coming all the way down to the farmer. Now, if you are talking to farmers in the Somerset area, I'm going to come back to Slough, because a couple of days ago I was talking to Mike from Slough, and Mike's been talking about ULEZ, but to my surprise, he suddenly got onto the subject of farming. Let's have a little listen to this clip.
You know, you see things, little snippets on the TV, on social media. So I did write to them. I won't say who it was, because I didn't ask permission to reveal his name. But I did write to the managing director of quite a large farm down in the Kent, sort of Sussex area on the borders there. And he kindly come back to me, and I was interested in these government, if you go onto like the government website, for quite a while now, this sustainable initiatives that they're putting out, where farmers take land out of production and let them sort of just rewild. And he told me that, I mean, we were all hoping, obviously, that the governments, especially with the war in Ukraine, would be getting behind farmers now and helping them, you know, grow food for the British people, which is obviously a lot better than importing it. And he said that the rhetoric is that they're supporting farmers grow local produce, but they're not really doing anything about it. So what's happened is a lot of farmers are being paid to take large swathes of land out of production.
So, Sandi, there you are, gentleman in Slough. He's seeing what's happening. And of course, he's looking at factual information. And I've used fact there because, as we're going to see in a minute, there are people who would have us believe that what we are talking about is some form of conspiracy. But before we get there, just very quickly, tell us what we're going to be able to eat.
Well, this is something that's being pushed by our government, which is the EAT-Lancet Commission on Food, Planet and Health, and they're sort of putting this document together, and I see it really as a rationing. They won't ever say the word rationing, but actually in the EAT-Lancet document, you will find that in fact they've got a plan to ration our dairy and our meat intake, and if you actually break it down, they've got 16 kilograms per year for beef, which works out at a third of a hamburger a week. That's your lot, and 90 kilograms of milk a year, and that's 1 pint of milk per week. But your cheese has to come out of that. So if you eat cheese, then you have to reduce your 1 pint of milk. So this is where it's going, and this is what's being promoted, because what they're saying is, how do we feed a whole planet of people? There's not enough to go round, given the population. But as we know, particularly in Europe, we're not even at replacement level. So where are they coming up with these statistics? That's what I'd like to know. Yeah.
Well, we'd all like to know that, Sandi. Thank you for that. Now, very quickly here, I think this is amazing hypocrisy. We're going back to 2020, but we've got a North Somerset councillor who was declaring a nature emergency. So if we have a look at, just look at this on screen, as it were, but that's the headline. North Somerset Council declares nature emergency to resist the destruction of habitats and ensure developments boost biodiversity. But as we've seen from the local plans, destruction of the environment is what the whole thing is about. Notice that this has been produced by a local democracy reporter. So that's the BBC at work. Now, Sandi, you have done a huge amount of work on all this environmental subject. You deal with facts and documents, but there's one particular lady who has been very, very cutting and I think unkind and wrong in her description of you. She is the mayor of Glastonbury. And we'd just say, first of all, that part of her background is that she's been active with Extinction Rebellion. This is an article from a little while ago, well, not so long ago, actually. It was July 2022. But she was trying to save an oak tree that was very old from developments for the 303. And I just found it incredible that this lady is trying to do that. But at the same time, if you talk about destruction through the net zero policies, she's coming back. And this is a very interesting email sent into the UK column, where a lady is challenging the Green Mayor of Glastonbury, India Don Francesco. And one of the reasons she's doing that is because when you spoke out at the town council on the subject of what was happening with sustainable development goals, the mayor described you as a mob. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, yes. I mean, from the transcript, she did say that she said a group came to the council, a mob. Really, I say a mob because there are 100 and that constitutes a mob. But the fact is that actually these are the people of Glastonbury who are concerned people who had come along to try and work out what was going on with 15-minute cities and low traffic neighbourhoods and all that sort of thing. And because there was a lot of them, she called it a mob. And these are the people that she represents. And the people of Glastonbury are not too happy and have actually are asking for an apology for what she said.
This is yes, this is correct, and well they might. But of course, she didn't only have a go at you; she also had a go at the UK column. Let's have a listen to what she actually has said.
What happened next? YouTube happened next. So they were filming, which, we film it anyway. We film all of our council meetings. Big thing, and it goes out. It actually is streamed live. What had been done is she captured the end bit where everyone's going, yeah, no 50-minute cities, and basically said that they'd stopped the 15-minute city being in our town. Heroes. Yeah? Bravo. Thank you. And so it's like, oh gosh, that was a bit weird. So this person who put it out, untrustworthy. UK column. I don't know if anyone heard of UK column. It's a media outlet which is actually yeah, thank you. Yeah, that one. But on the internet it says so under media bias fact check, which is actually a thing and they're independent, it's rated strong right-wing biased conspiracy website, frequently promotes false and misleading info, uses inciting language. So this is her platform, okay? And I'm not just going UK column. Now they sometimes do stuff which is, just normal and freedom and all this, but sometimes they go. So I'm not, it's yeah. Anyway, it's the rising of these things that I would like people, this is a cautionary tale bit, okay? Because it's coming to a town near you.
Well, for our audience, there you have it. That's the intellectual standard of the Green Mayor of Glastonbury, who's been incredibly rude about local townspeople who've spoken up on the subject of Agenda 2030 and rewilding, all these subjects. She doesn't look at the facts, but of course, lots of wonderful hand movements. And she's very keen to demean the UK column. And she's got all of her information from a thing, quote, and it's independent. So Sandi, just very briefly, 10 seconds to finish it off. Where did this mayor come from? I hear she's a priestess, but that may be an allegation.
I don't know if she's a priestess of Avalon. I have no idea, but I know she's very caught up with the goddess movement, and that's fine. That's her choice. That's nothing wrong with that. But she's very ill-informed. And very confused because she seems to think that we are being. She made an allegation that I was actually working for the oil companies and that I was receiving money from the oil companies to put this out. But actually, it's you look at Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion. Who funds them? So yeah, she's very confused woman and very ill-informed.
I also think she's very worried. Well, let's move on to the subject of conspiracy, because, of course, it seems that the legacy media, formerly the mainstream media, is very concerned about alternative media challenging their output. But I picked up on this Politico article mainly because it was just so dire. So the headline here, how conspiracy theories infected British politics, from COVID jabs to sex education. The language of conspiracy theories is creeping into the mainstream. This is written by a lady called Bethany Dawson. And I decided just to have a little look at her to get a measure of what sort of journalist we're dealing with. Well, it didn't take long to get a feeling for this lady. So here she is, and the caption is, this Barbie is totally overexcited. And she's got her special eye makeup on. But if you're not happy with that, there's a second one. Current me is very happy with my Pride makeup, but future me is fuming about all the glitter I will find in my hair for the next 100 years. And we've got one here. My night is going to be so good. And what is she referring to? Was somebody's put the Barbie is a 2-hour woke-a-thon brimming with feminist lectures and nuclear level rage against men. So I don't know what our viewers think about this, but is this a mature, discerning journalist, or is she really a very immature schoolgirl? Well, that's one problem, but the second problem is where her training comes from. And so she admits a little bit here. She said she's only been a John Schofield Fellow since December. This is from a little while ago, and can already say it has made a monumental difference to my career. This is totally deserved, and she's referring to the fact that Susie Schofield, the founder, has just got the MBE and the King's Birthday honours. Well, as you do. And then on the right of the picture there, we've got a big thank you to the BBC for a day of masterclasses. But the icing on the cake for me was this one, that she said that she was now having a great session with Mariana Spring. And so we've got to ask whether the training session was really about how to falsify your CV. So really the standard of journalism, just appalling. And of course, what did that journalist not do? Cover any facts, look at any detail or any real criticism about information that the mainstream media has